Hello everyone. I am so excited to be back with another class for us. I'm getting myself set up right now. I haven't been in my sketchbooks as much as I'd love, so I think that this is a perfect opportunity, especially with spring. Of course, I don't know when you are watching this. That's the lovely thing about an online course is you can watch this whenever is convenient and comfortable for you, but spring has arrived. Yesterday was the spring equinox, and I am super excited about all the wildflowers already coming up and taking a look at the nature and going for walks, taking my watercolors out with me. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to share with you one of my favorite projects from my sketchbook from last year is a phenology wheel. So a phenology wheel is just a way to record what you see, observations, and the passage of time. It's kind of, this one isn't a 12-month. Sometimes people do a month-long one, so you'll have like 30 or 31 pieces of pie. There's a lot of different options, but this one I did as a 12-month option. This can be a full spread in your journal, and then it can be something you come back to every month and add on to. Or this one I actually, in all honesty, I did at the end of the year and added everything in. And I kind of went back through my camera roll and picked a month and like looked at what was I taking pictures of, what was I seeing, and what did I find. So that's what I'm doing here, and that's what we're going to do today. So this is in my Hanamule 100% cotton notebook. I really loved this as an expensive, like high quality notebook. I really love the way the paper works. I still like the other version of the Hanamule, but I think for the difference in the cost, the cotton one is really where it's at. And if you want to go and check out some of my YouTube videos, since the beginning of this course, I've like discovered some more sketchbooks, and I share more about some other options that I've been using and trying out. So there's always that as kind of an add-on resource for you. So I'm so happy you're here, and I'm going to walk you through how to set this up, and then we'll start with one. So this last year, the Kingfisher was really busy in January. It was the same this year, and I'm not sure what am I gonna put for January, or we can actually, let's just start in the month that we're in. So for March, I might go out and take some pictures of the trailing arbutus, and because that one's been blooming. I also have some footage of the phlox is coming out, and some other, ooh, you know what I love? The ragwort, the Smalls ragwort is the version that we have, and I absolutely love it. So I'm going to go back here, and guess what? This is the last spread in this notebook. Is it? Oh my goodness, we've made it through this notebook. I've been working in a lot of different ones, so yeah. Y'all, we've done a lot this year, and I'm super excited to do a flip through soon. So I'll be adding that to my YouTube channel soon. So, but I'll still keep adding some classes here, and I'm excited to just stay on course with keeping our sketchbooks alive, filling them up, and then I'll just move on to this one because I need to finish it. Even though it's not my favorite, we're gonna finish it up. Okay, so I put some clips on here, just kind of help keep my pages down. I'm going to, you don't have to be too specific, but it helps. And you also don't have to have a protractor. You can kind of do it by sight, but I like using that in terms of laying it out. Let's see, this is 15 centimeters plus 6. So we've got 31. No, 15 plus 6 is 21. So half of that would be 10 and a half. So 10 and a half is going to be my center right here. on the thread line. So I'm just marking a center, so I kind of know where to begin. And then I'm going to put that center right here. And if we're doing 12, then 180 divided by 6 is 30. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, make a mark, 1, 2, 3, make a mark, 1, 2, 3. That's good. That ends up on the center. That means we're doing something right. 1, 2, 3, make a mark, 1, 2, 3, make a mark, 1, 2, 3. That one's hard to get to. So I'm actually going to line this up with center again and then put it on that mark there, if that makes sense. So then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, make a mark, 1, 2, 3, make a mark, 1, 2, 3. So it's every 30 degrees for the 12-month version. That one's on the line. 1, 2, 3, make a mark. And then this one, I can't really make a mark, so that's why I have to turn it. We'll come over here. Oh, I broke it. When did I break it? Not surprising to me at all that I've broken something here. You know, even a broken protractor will work. Anything will do. Okay, so gonna line that up with this line. And then this one should actually be lined up there at 30. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, make a mark, 1, 2, 3. So it's not perfectly accurate, but it's not bad. The next thing you can do is you can find an object that's like the size of your paper, or you can work from a compass, which I kind of like to do, I'll be honest. So I just put my mark here on the center, and then I take the pencil out to the edge as big as I want to. So this is the most narrow part of the page is here, so I don't want to start over here where I can go wider. So here, if I start there, you want to hold it at the top, put the pressure on the center. Whoopsie, we stretched. That happens. Come back to our line. Don't know what happened. It's okay. These things happen. Okay, there we go. Well, you know, it's not perfect. That's okay. All right, gonna put that away. Might just erase this wild mark here. And then what you'll do is you'll take your flat edge, you start here, you line it up with that. You can go all the way across. I don't have a ruler on me right now. Actually I do. I just remembered. I made a little hook for my long roller. Yay! Oh, I love that I made a spot for it. That's always my biggest issue. This is why you actually don't even need to draw both lines. If you've got a long enough ruler, you can get all the way through. And it should be about lined up. So you want to kind of line up all 3 marks. We've got our center here. So this is really the most kind of tedious part of it, is setting it up, I think. But it's also really fun. This is the time where you can really think about what do you want to include? How do you want it to look? Do you want to include things like the weather, or do you want it to only be plants? Do you want it to only be animals? And the one that I showed you, I had a mixture of both, kind of depending on the season. How do you want it to feel? What do you want to include? Lots of different things in each quadrant. So those are all options you have. Ooh, I'm gonna put my ruler back where it belongs. Oh, I love it when things have a place. Y'all, that makes such a big difference. Okay, so here we are. I'm gonna flip back to the other page and just show you some more of these. I will put a link below. A long time ago, I actually created a Pinterest board for us of different resources and things to look at, to get inspired and get ideas. So I'm going to put some more phenology wheels on that Pinterest board that other people, there are so many incredible versions that people have done. This is actually the first one I ever did, the first one I ever finished. And so I'm excited to kind of take this and maybe build upon it a little bit more. The colt's foot is definitely going right now. Let's see. Maybe I'll take us out for a little walk and let's go check out what's blooming. So we are right here beside my driveway where the trailing arbutus has come out in all of its beauty. I'll move that back a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. It has, these are not the leaves, these are the leaves. So do you see the difference? They're very leathery. These beautiful white flowers that kind of have like a little yellow and a little pink on them. Got another one here. They kind of hide. And I think this is gonna be my flower. See the leaves? Oh, they're beautiful because they have all this variation. So I think I'm gonna sit here and draw. The wind is blowing. It's like 45 degrees. I should have put on a coat. It feels a lot warmer than yesterday, so there's that, and the sun is shining. I am just right alongside of my driveway here, so nothing too glamorous. Definitely need to do some work here, but let me extend this leg back. I'm gonna show you just, these aren't the best conditions for me to sit here and paint today, but I'm gonna show you, I've brought out my sketchbook. I'm gonna do like a quick little drawing, just to try to fit this into my sketchbook. So I just want you to kind of have an idea of how you could come out and gather inspiration from your yard. Maybe you've got violets, maybe it's forsythia. There's all sorts of things right now that are blooming and exciting. I'm gonna write March down right here on this one, and I'm gonna just start sketching, and then I'll go inside and we will paint together. Bye. Okay, instead I decided it might be helpful for you to see how I break down this flower and this triangle. A triangle is a very not ideal format to work in. So I'm just going to show you how I'm going to draw in my flowers. I will put my reference pictures in the comments below. I've got them right over here on the side. I took them on my phone, which I film on, and then I've got them on my iPad here, so I can still film and work on this. So we are going to start, I'm going to start with this one largest flower here. So it has kind of a center, and then it has, I would almost say, kind of some, can you see what I'm doing? All right, so it has a center that kind of has some lines in it. And a phenology wheel is really one of the spots where I really would love, you know, like the detail is important. So I'm going to start with this kind of one petal here. But from that one, because I can kind of see this one very clearly, I've got that space. And then I also want to identify the whole shape of the flower. So if I kind of blur my eyes, it sort of stays a little bit narrow on the sides here and elongates itself on top and bottom. So that's sort of the outside shape if you traced around the edges of the petals. Now this one comes out here and is more circular, kind of has almost an inside to it. Then we have a top petal, comes up here. It has a little fold in it. So I'm just going to kind of mimic how this side here folds in. And there's a little shadow here. You can draw in shadows or you can wait to paint them. And then I've got two more petals to fit on here. So I've got one that comes out to this side. Same thing. It's a little more round looking, but it has a little fold there. I'm going to highlight here. And then we have this bottom one here that kind of comes in and has similar kind of folds. So it's not perfect, but you get the idea. You can go ahead and erase these outline marks. A pencil eraser does well, but I really, really love, not that you need to buy anything else, but I have this Tombow, no, yeah, it's a Tombow mono, low battery mode. We'll see if we can stay charged. Mono 0, so it has this really, really fine point eraser to it, so I can get in kind of tight against my illustrations. So if that's been something you struggle with, kind of how to erase around your lines, I recommend it. It's refillable as well, so you can keep the body but don't have to replace the whole thing. Okay, so I've got my main flower here. I'm gonna go over here because it's pretty cool. I can see how the base of the flower, so I'm not gonna put it together exactly like I see in person. So you see kind of the tube of the flower here, and that'll be sort of a shadow. And then it comes out. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna draw my first petal as my reference petal. And you could do it also just by drawing the shape first, but sometimes drawing the first petal kind of gives me a little more information to get my other shapes in. So I've got my first petal here, and I'm gonna go up and do the second one. It's kind of pointed. And then I've got my third one here. It's a little more pointed on that side, and then there's kind of another flat one here, and then you kind of see this area here. So we've got that one in next. And then I'm gonna draw another little one back here in the cluster. This one is just a little, just kind of grouping of shapes. So this petal is in front of the other one. Whoop. Focus. There we go. And so I'm going to make sure that line's in front of this. This is why this little eraser comes in very handy. If not, you can just leave your lines. It's okay. I've got another one that comes forward here. But it is kind of closed up. So I'm going to put my centers a little bit off center, and then you just kind of see the tops of the petals. So I'm going to draw that in. And this is the base of it, and it kind of feeds back into this cluster. And then I've got another one here. My photo's a little out of focus, but that's okay. This one comes up here. And there we go. So we've got our 5, and then we've got our center there. So does that make sense? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why, like, things don't necessarily make sense sometimes until you paint them. I'm gonna go over here and draw another big one. And we've got the outside here. And this one's gonna be quite big. I'm gonna let it fade into the background there, kind of dead end, if you will. And then I also want to put some leaves in for reference. So they're not going to be exactly, I'm just going to kind of put them in as they work within my square. So that's going to be kind of a stem, and then they kind of have a point, but they're also sort of rounded. And then they have spots on them. So we've got this one. I'm going to put another one over here. It's kind of a little more wavy. Give it some background. And then we'll add just some hints of green here. And maybe one over here. So there we go. All right, let's get to painting. I will zoom us out for this part so you can see my whole setup, but I'll have us kind of zoomed in more to this quadrant. Let's make sure. Focus. Are we focusing? Here. There we go. All right, I'm sorry if I get out of focus. I will try to make sure we stay on top of that. All right, I'm going to choose, let me put my water up here, or at least my brushes. I've got my favorite, you know, I love this one, the number 8, I think it is, the Cheap Joe's, Joe Miller Signature Series, the 50/50. So I love this nice and fluffy one, but for this piece, we are dealing with so much detail. I'm gonna use this one. I got this one when I was in the UK last year. It was £4 on sale. So I really like this one. Yeah, that's probably gonna be the only one I use for this. So, because it's nice and tiny, it's probably closer to like a 2. I don't see it. I think it used to be written on here. This is a synthetic sable, so I'm just gonna grab my water and I'm gonna choose to paint the leaves first. And as you know, one of the things I love to do is like a warm coat for the leaves. I might go with my yellow ochre here. Well, no, let's keep it nice and bright. The yellow ochre I have is a very bright version. It's by Holbein. So I'm just gonna go ahead and underpaint here. I'm going to leave those little spots off because they look kind of more gray, so I don't want the yellow on those. I got this a little bit thick for my liking. I have a new drawing board, so I have it propped up like this, which is awesome, but it means my paintbrush is falling off. So I'm going to water this down just ever so slightly more so it's not as opaque. Yellow can be quite opaque, depending on the version. The one that I'm using is similar to like a Hansa Yellow Medium or a, I guess it depends on the brand. They like a Windsor Yellow or a Joe Yellow or just a more medium yellow. I think the one that I'm using is Joe's, or no, I'm actually using Aureolin by Holbein, which I really like. It's a hue and it has this nice warm, almost chartreuse color to it. So I switched over sometime last year and I've really been liking it. This is a very light, fast version of a yellow. And a wee bit more down here. Get my yellows in. So this is also a good opportunity to show you how I do white petals, because you always want to think about what light is reflecting on your white flowers. So I definitely am going to have some warm pink in here. So I'm going to use, you can either use like your Quin Magenta or your Quin Rose and kind of water that down. In my palette right now, I have Quinacridone Coral, which is like a little different. It's a little less purple. Or you can use a Pyrrole Scarlet watered down, is also very beautiful pink. So I'm gonna just add some dabs of this in here. You want it very nice and watered down so that it is pink and not red for your petals. I'm just gonna dab them on. I'm looking at the picture, but at the same time, I'm just kind of feeling my way through it, kind of where I think I want the pink to be. So I can also see that there is some nice yellow on some of these petals as well. You can use your yellow ochre. I have a Naples yellow here. This one's by by Schminke. So that one might be a little bit too pale. So I'm gonna add water down See, I got that too dark, so you just kind of take the water off of your brush and lift some of that yellow off. Oh, where's my rag? I have a paper towel. I just usually don't use them, but I was cleaning off my palette, and so sometimes paper towels are really helpful for that. I'm gonna grab, so if you've got too much pigment, you can use a little bit of water and lift that off. So I'm gonna leave that like that. I think I'm gonna come in with some blues and grays to kind of add shadow. And then I also want to add this yellow, maybe mixed in with the reds I have here. And put the center in. And we'll do some more work on that soon. But I think I'm gonna go and grab green. Okay, I need to plug in my phone. Hold on. All right, let's mix our green. So I think depending on what colors you have in your palette, I think you can go with a sap green and just warm it up a little bit more with yellow. If you have phthalo green and then add your warm yellow to that, you can do that as well. I'm probably gonna do, I have this phthalo turquoise, which is kind of like a phthalo green, and then I'm gonna add my yellow ochre to that and see what happens. Maybe not that one. Sometimes mix a color, check it out, look at it, test it out. You can put it on your paper. So here's the Perylene green. I've talked a lot about this color. So I'm going to take Perylene green and let's try that with my yellow. Ooh, I feel like that's about kind of where I want to be with this one. So I'm not going to put it everywhere because it looks like I'm also going to add some burnt sienna to the mix. Can do a little bit of that. Maybe I'm going to take some of my cerulean blue mixed with some yellow. Maybe I'll mix them together. See if I can get this a little more. Maybe I'll lay all this down and then just drop in the burnt sienna, the browns, the reds. I think you could use burnt sienna, or you could use your Pyrrole Scarlet, like a really orangey color. So there's my green. I might even need it. Let's try the yellow mixed with some ultramarine blue. And if you have sap green, that one's pretty fun to work with. It's going to be quite vibrant in comparison to the other versions. Also, if you use your Perylene green, if you have that one, and then you mix some rich green gold or green gold with it, or if you have quinacridone gold, you can really get some nice vibrant earthy greens in there. Add a little bit more. Since this leaf is behind, I'm gonna make it a little darker. A little extra Perylene green there. So maybe a wee bit too dark. So what I'm gonna do is gonna take my, I think this was a sandwich napkin. That's why I see it just fell out. That's really exciting. I'm gonna lift some of this off, just so that it's not too drastic. Take it up to the edge. And then the next thing, as I'm doing this, I also want to be thinking about what do I want my background color to be. Right here, you can kind of see that this leaf seems behind that one because this one's a little bit bolder. So what I might do there is take a little bit of my red or a little bit of burnt sienna and kind of punch this back. So even though that's a warmer color, because it's the contrast or the, Oh no, have I forgotten my words today? Yeah, it's the contrasting color to, no, I keep forgetting. It begins with a C. Why can't I think of my word today? Complementary color to green, because they're opposite on the color wheel. So adding in that burnt sienna there is going to create a little more friction between the two. But since we've got the burnt sienna, I'm just going to go ahead and dab a little bit more in here. And do the same up here. And then I'm going to take more of this yellow, try to bump this leaf a little bit more, make it a little bit brighter. Might want to wait a little bit longer since that's still wet. I don't want them to bleed together, but. And then I might just try to punch that back just a little bit more. You could do even like a tiny bit of purple. You can make a little purple with your magenta and ultramarine. So nice grapey purple there. Might be nice right in here. I think purple is just a really fantastic shadow color, and I'll take my vein through there. And then I'm going to take this burnt sienna. I still have a lot of purple on my brush. Maybe purple will be our background color for this one. And then let's do our last leaf. Find your favorite green mixture. So I'm going to stick with Perylene and my bright yellow. I'm just going to come in, add a little more water, take off a little paint so I'm not too thick here. Get this laid on right here. And then you cut in around your flower leaves, petals, sorry. So that's a really nice way to work if you've got a little tiny brush. We're essentially, you know, there's a lot of different techniques to using watercolors. This is kind of more like drawing with them in a way. I don't know if that makes sense, but got this kind of fun little green. I'm just going to pick it up off the palette. I think that was the one with my phthalo. You're going to get your brightest greens, your most like spring looking greens with your phthalos. So I'm doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I think I need to pull this leaf forward. So I'm going to lift off the paint right here. Some sketchbooks do that better than others. A cotton sketchbook is going to do that better than a pulp paper sketchbook. So you just lift it and then you wipe it off. Maybe the center vein here. And a wee bit red rust. There we go. Kind of let that bleed into itself. There we go. We've got like a little clump of leaves over here. And let's come in. I haven't done this leaf down here. I'm just going to do that very, very fast. I'm just going to fill up this whole section. Whoops, too much, too dark. Wipe and lift it off. There you go. Okay, so now I want to come in and kind of cut around all the flowers, and then that way we can really see what values we're working with our petals. So I'm going to choose, I think I want to do kind of a purple. So this is going to be fun to pick your purple mixture. So I'm going to start with quinacridone magenta. You can use any of your reds. And then I'm going to do my blue. I'm going to go with ultramarine blue. And then I kind of want it to be a little more earthy, a little more interesting. You can add your phthalo blue, your phthalo green, or your phthalo turquoise is gonna, whoa, you see that? Add a little more pink. Whoa. There you get like a very different kind of color. Now, if you want to kind of muddy it up a little bit, actually, we're going to do that next. I'm going to lay this down, and while it's wet, I'm going to show you how to make it a little more interesting. So I'm going to use this. I've made a nice, good pile of it, enough to fill this triangle so that I know I won't run out of paint and then have to remix this color. So that's the one thing. Before you get started, make yourself a little pile of it, little puddle. Not a pile, it's a puddle. It doesn't have to be that big. So sometimes we can over mix and over make, which is okay too. But then you're gonna have that color to play with on your palette for a while. So I'm just gonna be dropping this in around my flowers and my leaves. Gonna go right up to my edge there. I love this part. It's really gonna help make the flower petals stand out. Don't want my brush to be too wet. So work within that section. So I kind of have a stop and go here from here to there. And while that's still wet, so I'm not gonna have any lines that'll like look cut off because I have kind of a perfect stop and go there, if that makes sense. So it's like a puzzle piece. So this is like your next puzzle piece that's all connected. So while that's there, I'm maybe gonna add a little bit of Indian red and a little bit of water and just sort of place that in there, just so it's a little more interesting. Keep it kind of wet and moving. So it looks like it's actually drying pretty fast today. I think it's pretty dry today. So you see the difference there between just a flat wash of purple and then adding a little bit of color. You could have chosen more blue, you could have chosen more green, whatever you like. I just went with the Indian red because I thought that could be kind of fun. So I'm going to do the same thing here. So I know that I have a section that kind of stops here and there. So I want to keep this purple moving between those two spots, if that makes sense. So I don't get any harsh stopping lines with my paint. Because if I stopped like that, then when I came back to, connect the two, you would see that line. And you know what? It's just a sketchbook, so it doesn't matter that much. But a sketchbook is where we can kind of practice those skills and remind ourselves, like those little techniques. So see the difference here and there? This one kind of pops, makes the petals pop a little bit more. So I'm going to do the same thing while it's wet. Drop in just ever so much. This tiny little light Indian red here. Right along the edges. Yeah. Okay, this is looking fun. Next section. Yeah, this one's not connected, so that's going to be pretty easy. Just kind of push that back in the distance, add a little bit of the red, and then do the same thing. I'm not even going to wash my brush out for this one. I'm just going to add that one there. So those are such small sections, I don't think it matters too much. And then we've got our next big section, goes from here, actually it goes all the way over. So I want to make sure, I might want to mix just ever so much more this, that, and see how the green changes it over. The phthalo turquoise is the one I used. It's a little bit different, but it's about right. So I'm going to add this in, drop it in, follow the edges of my petals. Bring it down. These are the sections where it's like, wait, what's going on here? So you kind of have to just sort of make up some of this, it's like, I don't know where this starts and that ends. Might have gotten it wrong, but that works. And just fill it in. want to get all the way to the end before you stop and let that dry. So we don't have any harsh lines there. It's a lot easier to manage in such a small spot like this. But if you're doing a large painting, that's where really practicing those skills of moving quickly can come in handy so that you can get nice, clean washes. Another good way to do that is to pre-wet your paper. So if you are doing something larger, just did a lot of the red right there, but I kind of like that. I think it needed it. So I almost want to add a little more down here because see how things get lighter as they dry. So if you want to darken that up a little bit, you know, you can get really fussy with anything. And then one more section back here. Heat is on again today, ever so slightly. Follow that line just to give that a little shadow, a little lift, and a little bit of red to make that stand out and look a little bit different than the background. Add a little more purple because I got a little bit thick there. So not perfect. I'll just treat this like a shadow. This leaf on those leaves. You just kind of squint your eyes and try to make things work. Yeah, it's okay. A little more yellow down here, maybe a little bit of green gold. My brush is very dry. And then this is where we kind of want to come in and put the centers back into the flowers. So like a very light yellow. If you have a Naples yellow, that could actually work pretty well for these little centers as well. And then might add a little more yellow to some of these petals. Just because they start to turn yellow as they get a little bit older. So when they're fresh and bright white, you actually can eat these flowers. When they start to turn yellow, they're a lot more bitter. They're not as delicious. And then I'm gonna take, we've got a purple there already, but let's, I'm gonna add more blue, and then I'm gonna add maybe the Indian red to try to make a gray. So more of my ultramarine blue and the Indian red for a gray. Let's make that a little more blue. Might just add a little brown just to tone it down even more. You could have started with the brown too, if you want like a purest sort of gray. But I'm just using what's on the palette. That's kind of why. Now it's too brown. Add a little more blue. Getting the right mix can take a little bit of time. So I want to water this down. So I've got this section over here that's a little wetter of a puddle, so it's a little more see-through. And then this is what I'm going to do to add my shadows that I kind of sketched in there. And then put that there. I'm not going to be too like specific about, I mean, you probably should be to give it more depth, but I'm just going to drop in some shadows just to kind of push and pull things back. You can look at your picture or my picture and just see kind of where the shadows exist. Kind of right there. A little bit right there. And there you have it. It's not perfect. It's not bad. I might lift some of this off. I got a little bit too shadowed, but yeah, so from here, maybe put a little bit of this gray on these. That's a little too dark. I feel like I really love when you mix Naples yellow with your gray color. Kind of gives you almost a perfect kind of natural, neutral gray. Can use a little bit of that here and there. And then now all we need to do is, are you going to ink it? Do you want to leave it like this? If you don't like using ink, you can come in with like a thicker pencil line and darken it up that way to keep it kind of neutral. If you wanted to add other things, you can do whatever you like with this. I like to label things as well. I'm gonna walk across the room and grab my pen very quickly. Don't know why I left it over there. I have a whole stack of pens right here to my left, but I want this one. This is my favorite, very fine, thin line for illustrating. Let's make sure I've got some ink in there. It looks like I've got a little bit of ink. Might test it on a little paper. I keep my business card here to just kind of make sure my pens are ready to go. And let's see, how much ink do I want to add? So I might come in here. Then let's see, I add a few little dashes in there. So I don't want to overdo it, but it kind of helps bring it to life sometimes, I think. You can also, if you're having trouble with the background staying in the back, so this petal is actually more forward, is on top of this one. And got this one. So you can use your ink pen to kind of do some cross-hatching or just some shading back here. Sort of push things back if you're having trouble making your flowers stand out. Now doing this, it actually makes me feel like I'm missing some color in the back there. I think I need to add some yellow. I'm going to use a little yellow ochre and just dab that on in the background there. Maybe a little bit more yellow in the center. So that's the other thing. Sometimes when you start adding more detail, you kind of have to come back in and make it the color, you know, punch against the ink a little more. So it can be good or bad. I'm going to come in and trace this leaf. So when you're doing your leaves, I would start with the one on top, and then I would do the next one, and then the one in the background. And here's where you get to kind of see, and you can learn from me, if you like adding the ink or if you think it looked better beforehand. I might regret this, we'll find out. But it is what it is, so. Sometimes I like to kind of block it out a little more unrealistically and kind of follow the color. Y'all seen me do this in my other videos, and that kind of feels more like my style. So that one feels a little more like me now that I've sort of fragmented the illustration a little bit. Might as well come back and do that here. So it looks different. It looks less realistic, but it's fun. So there's that. So you can choose if you want to make it very realistic, if you want to kind of stylize it. A lot of options here. I'm gonna go ahead and trace this line now that it's painted. Make it fun for yourself. So even if you're like, oh, maybe I don't like the way that looks as much, but if it was more fun to do it that way, just do it. It's a sketchbook. It's okay. All right, I think that's my first triangle pie piece, if you will. Have fun with your line making. They don't have to be straight lines. You can do squiggly lines. Squiggly lines is a little more fitting around these petals. And then I'm going to write out here, I think I'll follow the arch here. So this is going to be March. It's a little bolder. Just thicken the down line, so every line that I made that was going down is going to be a little bit thicker. And then on top of that, I'm going to write so there you have it. All right, I can't wait to see what you've made, and I can't wait for us to continue to share these and enjoy adding on. All right, bye.